good day, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
And all of you out there in YouTube or video land, social land, welcome to the Steve and Steve Show.
Yeah, welcome.
Do you have a good week, Steve?
This was a fantastic week.
That's terrific. That is terrific. We're still obviously virtual. You can kind of see the flashing and stuff like that out here. That's going to go away, I think, next week. What do you think?
I think we're gonna do that. Yeah, I think it's we're in Colorado, and Colorado is one of the states that has opened up on a slow scale. And since it'd be you and I, and I think we're safe enough for us to get together.
And we'll be very safe. I'll put my organic mask on. And the whole time we'll do the show like this. I hope you can understand me, but I have my mask on.
Yeah.
So
you are older than I am, so
Yes. And compromised. I'm compromised. Although I'm drinking very healthy drinks that are not caffeinated energy drinks and stuff.
Well, I am still sucking down coffee. So.
Okay, that's good.
But before we get into the topic, I do want to remind folks, and I want to thank you ahead of time for watching us. And if you could do us a favor and go ahead and subscribe, hit the red button down below and hit the bell button for notifications you want to hear when we do publish. We try to publish on a Sunday afternoon. But definitely help us out with the subscription. As we build that subscription, some features open up that we're trying to get to. And so every subscription at this point matters. So we'd certainly appreciate that you do watch our videos on a regular basis. So thank you.
Every subscription counts. Keep telling everybody else about it. Again,
right.
I'll go back to find 10 people.
That's right.
So,
all right. So this week you had the topic this week.
Yes, the topic today, Steve, is possibly a little, I don't know, I'm not going to use the word contentious, but maybe there'll be some tension here. It is the law of attraction. So many people are attracted to me, but that's not really what this is about. What is to you, Steve, the law of attraction in personal development, let's say?
Well, so it's not, I don't know if it's just personal development, right? So personal development would be someone studying how the law would work in their own lives.
Okay.
Okay. But I do, right away, I'm going to put in that have been studying the law of attraction for a number of years.
Oh, really? Oh, so you got all the, so that's what he's doing. When I say something, it's going to be because he's been studying for 20 years. You're attracting some weird stuff with this.
So the law of attraction is one of those laws that's always working. So like gravity's always working, at least on Earth. And so it's always out there. And so the attraction is how things are attracting to you. So if you're being positive things happen. If you're being negative things are being attracted. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
Okay, so a question for you then. Does that mean that it's kind of like energy swirling out there, and when you begin to focus on this certain, to give an example of it, I don't know, what's a good example? I want this person to come into my life. And you start imagining that person, you start doing it, and then does that go into the ethosphere and it actually does some sort of a physical energy attraction that brings that person, let's say, into your life? Is that
that might be a little broad, but the idea is yes. So the first part I want to get people to understand is that there's 6 letters on the end of attraction that a lot of people just kind of brush over, and that's the what spells action.
Oh, I was thinking traction. So like a tractor beam in Star Trek?
not
Action.
I'll have to look at the spelling. But it's action.
Okay.
So that's action, the last 6 letters. So there's things that are going to happen to you that you actually have to take action in order for those for things to actually come into play, right? So if you're trying to attract somebody, now if it's a specific person, that can happen. It's happened for me when I was trying to try to locate a specific real estate mentor.
Yeah, tell that story, why don't you?
Okay. Well, so that can happen, but if it's like someone you don't know, right? There's things you can do to enable the attraction. So since we're on the real estate thing, so what happened to me is there was a specific real estate mentor in the area, he was at the time, he wasn't necessarily a mentor, but he was someone who was doing a lot of real estate stuff, and he was getting a lot of accolades from the rich dad community. And he was in the next kind of city or the next town near me. So maybe 20 miles, 30 miles away. So he was doing all this activity in my own backyard, right? That's the way I was looking. I was like, wow, he's in Colorado. He's here. He's doing all this activity by taking all these steps. That's somebody I'd like to meet someday, right? So we went to a conference. It happened to be a Rich Dad conference. And my wife and I, we got there early. It was there may be 20, 30 people in this hallway, one of those large hotel hallways in Vegas. So you can kind of imagine that. And the opening session was not open yet. We were registered, but they hadn't opened the doors to let people go and grab their seats. But we wanted to make sure we got a decent seat. And we were expecting a lot more people than that early, but apparently not, a different kind of crowd. But we got there early, doors weren't open, so we decided to sit in the hallway and wait. And so it was carpeted, we were sitting there, and here comes this couple that down the hallway. I wasn't really paying attention who was coming. I was talking to my wife, and they sat down right next to us against the wall while we're waiting for the doors open. And I looked over, and it happened to be the couple that I wanted to meet. The gentleman, it was Tony Spandrio. He's now a Rich Dad Hall of Famer. He was actually being recognized that weekend for the activity and all the action that he took place. But because I had that in my mind, I had verbalized it actually to my wife that I'd like to meet that guy, right? And I figured over the weekend I would meet him. I wasn't really expecting it to be that soon. But I also was one of those things, well, he's in Colorado. If I don't find him at this conference, because I was expecting thousands and thousands of people, that it might be a little bit difficult to find someone who might be, he's getting an award, so he might be a little bit more in demand as far as his time and people trying to meet up with him. So I wasn't really expecting a lot of that. So I just figured he's in Colorado. Someday I'm going to reach out to the guy and, go meet him up for coffee or something like that. But I wasn't expecting it to happen that day. But I had thrown it out there as this is somebody I wanted to go meet and get to know and figure out what is he doing in my own backyard. But there was the opportunity. I could have easily not said anything to him, right? But he was there, with his wife, and so we got to meet him right there on the spot, and from there we built a very good relationship. So.
Well, so for me, I don't really know if it's a different or not. I'm not exactly certain if our perception of this is, but I've read a lot about the law of attraction, and a lot of times there's something connected to it, like the energy of the universe, for example. If you put it out there, there is this flow of energy in the universe that you kind of tap into of sorts, and you run into the current of that, and that leads you to, or leads that to you, drawing that attraction of whatever that is to you. I look at it more as, yes, there is this, in fact, I put it as God. God is all-encompassing of everything. Mm-hmm. So, and we have access to God. We're not God, but we have access to God, which means we have access to that infinitesimal everything.
Mhm.
And so ours is less of a, I'm going to attract this, and more of the law of attraction for me is more of an awareness of me getting better and better at attenuating or opening up my antennas to what it is I am seeking. And that can be good or bad, helpful or very hurtful. To give you an example that you and I have talked about before, we'll see how well it attenuates with you, is Jack Canfield in his book, The Success Principles, gives this example of this person, this guy, who worked in freezers, and somehow he was in a train car. Okay, there was a freezer car in a train. He goes into it because he was getting something out of there. At least that's what this was. It was a storage kind of a train car.
Mhm.
And the door shut and the door locked. He could not get out of it. He started panicking. He started, this is, I'm done. I'm finished. His whole mind began to wrap itself around the fact that I'm not going to make it. Nobody is around. They won't be here until the next day because it was later in the evening. So he was going to spend an evening in this freezer car, and he wasn't going to make it. Well, fast forward to the next day. Some people come up, they open up the train car door, and he's in there, and he actually did die. And they looked at this and said, how did this gentleman die in here? They did a temperature in the train car, and it was 55 degrees. But this gentleman thought that this train car was freezing.
Mhm.
So because of that kind of thinking about this, and in that case, manifesting, his attention was looking for something that actually didn't exist, but he created it in that space. So when I say listening, you can listen to whatever that can form the circumstances around you to actually physically manifest in that way. In his case, it was horrible what happened.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
is that the law of attraction in the way that you said it? Well, he attracted, in the way his antennas were up, he attracted a false reality that became a real reality.
I don't know about that, how that works with the word attraction. But I will state that it's a very good illustration of the power of the mind. And his belief system was very, very strong on that that it was going to be very cold in there and that it was going to affect him negatively. His belief was he was dying of the freeze, right? So he froze to death, even though the temperature around him was not at freezing level. He believed it, right? So his belief system was so strong that he attracted it from that standpoint, where he got, his mind was just there, right? So where the law of attraction would come into play on to utilize that story is, part of the law of attraction is your belief that what you're attracting is going to happen. So that can show you that if you're not, the opportunities that may come or can not, if you don't have the belief that it can happen, then you're right. So there's some subconscious belief that goes on in every one of our heads, positive and negative, that has a direct impact on our lives. And if we don't believe in law of attraction, that it's out there, that it's working all the time, then that could block on some of the stuff that we're trying to manifest, right? But the key part that I want to illustrate to this whole law of attraction, it's part about having a positive attitude, being aware of what kind of vibes you're doing, having a very good, strong belief that your vibes are bringing stuff in. But you have to take steps. You have to know, hey, I've got a nudge. I gotta lean forward. I gotta go down this path. It might be someone doing an invite, right? Let's for hypothetical, and I don't necessarily like to do hypotheticals, but in this case, I want to do a hypothetical. Somebody calls you up, a good friend of you calls you up and said, "Hey, I've got a friend I'd like for you to meet, and why don't you come over for and come over tonight? I got a friend I need you to meet." But your daughter, maybe it's a son, is being rushed to the hospital to give birth or something, right? You got some other family activity going on. And you have to decide, which one do I go to, right?
Right.
And if you were to go to your friend's house, there might be someone there that that you would have an opportunity to talk to them about your book. And that person could take that conversation and flip it, and all of a sudden you become that New York Times bestseller, right? So sometimes we have to, the nudges are there and we have to do an action. Now I gave you an extreme where you have to make a choice. Not necessarily the choice,
Yeah.
but maybe do I stay home, watch TV, or do I go get in the car and go meet some guy I don't even know, I don't care, right? You got to take those actions. And those little steps, those little actions, those little nudges that you come across can help you manifest to move that further. When you're set on a specific goal, when you set goals, right there you're blasting out what you want. But when we have negative beliefs in our mind that we can't, maybe it's a money issue, and maybe there's a goal that you want to get out of debt, right? But if you have that block in your mind, a negative block in your mind, well, that kind of counteracts to the positive part of the attraction of actually getting out of debt and moving forward, because you got this negative block that's happening. And so you might be making progress, working really hard on getting out of debt. Maybe it's the credit card stuff, and then all of a sudden engine issues happen, right? Now you got room on your credit card, you got this issue, you need to get your car fixed, bam, you go and charge that to your credit card and you're back to square one, right? So it's the negativity of those mind things that are going on that may be blocking you from that law of attraction actually showing up, and you realizing, hey, this is working. It's always working. It's just a matter of you being aware of what's going on internally and externally to be able to take the right actions.
Okay, so maybe a better example of something like the law of attraction in kind of my universe, if you will, is something we've talked about before, that red Volkswagen. So if I'm out there and I'm seeing in my mind's eye a red Volkswagen as I'm driving around, slowly but surely, I begin to see more and more red Volkswagens on the road. And so it's not that I am like creating red Volkswagens out of the ethers of the energies of the universe. I am my attention has opened up to the existence of red Volkswagens that are there, and now I'm seeing them. Does that fit more in with the law of attraction? I guess what I'm trying to get to, are you saying that you actually manifest, you actually create things from the law of attraction, or are you saying that you recognize things that already exist?
I think there's both.
Okay.
Right. One is you have to have that awareness, right? So when you declare that you want something, all of a sudden your mind becomes aware of what's available, right? But if something, sometimes things are not as obvious, and you have to look for things, right? So if you wanted to have a beach house, right, with an ocean view, by driving around Colorado, you're going to have a hard time running into something like that.
Right.
So, but if you were to go to California or Florida and actually look for something, you might be surprised what you might find. Now it becomes more, okay, I'm looking for this, I'm in the right spot, finding something that I can afford that fits with what I'm really looking for, then there's something there, right?
Okay.
So there, it's
There
not.
wasn't nearly as much tension as I
I have
thought.
studied this law for quite a bit, and I get frustrated with it, but I do know that it 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 is real. So if you wake up and you stub your toe and you have you just right away you're starting negative, then it's just gonna keep that negative is gonna keep going and going because you're attracting negative stuff. But if you wake up and you start with God, you give prayer, and you're looking, you got the hope and you've got the thankfulness, the
Do some
gratitude of attitude
exercise.
going, then your day starts off great, and it can go in a great way, right? If things happen, the event happens. Remember, taking responsibility for yourself. Our event plus your response equals your outcome, right? Whatever your response is, if that's a positive response or a negative response, the outcome is there. But it's
Right.
having that aware. But the law of attraction is always happening. And so whatever you're positive about or negative about, things will be attracted to you in that way. So here's a test, right? Because if this law really is out there, just like the law of gravity, pick something that you can believe
Yeah.
that could happen, and see if you can make it happen, right? So when I was first experimenting with this, um, it was the parking lot, the parking spot at a big busy space, right? So having that parking spot up front by the door, so I didn't have to walk all the way. That's an easy one. You can believe that there's an opportunity there that someone will pull out, and you get to pull in right as you're pulling in, right? So you have to kind of believe that there. Another one is I like feathers. So not every day you see feathers, right? But think about a feather and say, within sometime in the near future, a feather is going to show up in my life. And then when that does, we had this conversation with our mastermind. I guess it's been a few months now, but I was thinking this, I was like, gosh, challenge these guys to see if a feather would show up within the next, 2 or 3 days that they come across. And that afternoon, I went out for a run, and sure enough, I come across a bunch of feathers on the back.
Right. So again, for me, that is akin to the red Volkswagen thing for me. My awareness, my antennas go up,
Yeah,
and I
so
don't think they're
were the
I don't
feathers
think they're
always there?
completely.
Maybe.
For me, the challenge is if I can go out there. I am not the one manifesting because I don't consider myself being God personally. However, that does not limit my ability to see as God has laid it out, for example. So I can, because of my opening up my antennas, I actually do get access to that feather or to whatever else it is. And for that matter, there's a lot of bad things that you can open up to as well.
Yeah, and awareness is part of that, right? Being aware of what's there. But
I like your exercise.
one of the things that you when you first published your book, right? One of the things that you were stating to yourself and declaring to yourself that you were a New York Times bestseller, right? So what you were doing there by having that affirmation was reprogramming your mind, right? Because right now or before you had a book, there was no chance of you being a New York bestseller because you didn't have a book. Well, you wrote the book and it's published.
Right.
Now you have an opportunity. Now you need to reprogram
Right.
your mind. Tell your mind that you are a New York Times bestseller, right? So that now when something happens in the near future, your belief system is there. It may not be very strong like the guy in the train car, but you have your mind is going, okay, I'm a New York bestseller. Wait, I'm not. I am. Your mind is doing this battle, right? What's real true, what's not true, and it's trying to figure out what it is. But you keep telling yourself you are, right? And sometime in the near future, there's going to be somebody or something that comes into your life, and having that awareness subconsciously programmed in your mind is going to say, it's going to basically, kick your mind's ass and say, Steve, You got to talk to this person. Steve, you got to mention your book, right? And when you do, that little nudge, you took action, the last 6 letters of the attraction, boom, all of a sudden you're on a path that takes you down to become a New York bestseller, right? So it's out there, it's working, and it's got to have, you got to have that positive belief that you have to believe in yourself. And sometimes those belief systems that we have are so deeply rooted by not just by one phrase or one event that happened, but multiple things that confirmed that was the way it was into our heads, and we don't even think about it because it's subconscious, right? It's just we don't think about breathing, we don't think about a lot of things that we do, but our mind is working to do those things, and that's those beliefs that block us from those attractions that happen. And it's becoming aware of how you feel and what you're thinking and what's going on that can either enable or disable that from working. One thing that I wanted to touch, I Googled it right before, is that in the Bible, the phrase "fear not" is used 365 days or 365 times in the Bible, right? So that's every day of the year is "fear not." And if you don't have fear is a negative belief, right? If you don't have that, then you're opening up to all the positive stuff. But if you've got negative fear, negative stuff going on, you're putting up those walls, man.
And what a wonderful way to, kind of wrap this up with the current environment that we're in makes it so easy to be afraid. So what we said, be not afraid. So that's a great one to have, every single day, make that one of the mantras that you have, fear not, be not afraid. What I can choose to not be afraid. It may be a horrible thing that's out there, but you can choose to not be afraid of this. So while I love your challenge too for everybody out there that's listening to us right now. Definitely find something that you're going to that you're going to work on within this law of attraction. In my case, Steve, you're right. And I think it's really key. The action part of it was, in my case, writing that book. Now that the book is there, me saying I'm a New York Times best-selling author is the part that's the law of attraction. Maybe for me, since I haven't got that yet, that I don't really like the New York Times. Maybe I should be some other best-seller. Does that matter? No. Now, New York Times best-selling author. That's what I am.
Yeah. Yep. So as before, thank you for watching the video, especially if you got this far in the video. So thank you for sticking with us. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe. If you didn't like us, subscribe anyways, because we're still funny.
That's right. And make some comments, people. Throw some comments out there. We enjoy them.
Yep. And share. Let your friends know about us, because we do throw nuggets out there. Both Steve and I are certified coaches, and the things that we're talking about are things that we think are important for self-improvement. And we hope that you take some of these things and try them yourselves, challenge them. They're real, and we hope that you get a lot out of there. So please subscribe, subscribe, or comment, positive or negative. We like to see those as well.
And smile and be not afraid.
That's right. All right, Steve, I got cold coffee now. What do you got?
I've got cold, whatever this is. But it's not exploding all over the place. Cheers.
Cheers. Not sure which way.